So good evening, everyone. Today, the topic of my presentation will be Fear to Fear and Doing Anyway. This is actually a book written by Susan Jeffers. Personally, I find that this book offers really good insights that are really helpful in overcoming my personal fears. And I would love to share them with all of you here. Before I begin looking at my slides, I'm just going to talk briefly about my personal fear and how it stands in the way of my career aspiration. Well, I aspire to become a criminal and human rights lawyer, and as all of you know, having good advocacy skills is essential to being a lawyer. Ironically, life as it is, my greatest fear is public speaking. Yeah. I would be so terrified to the extent that whenever I'm required to speak in the public, my brain would just automatically shut off and I would tremble. So I figured that to work towards my dream, I have to stop feeling self-pity and I have to take some actions, which is why I'm standing here giving this presentation. Okay, so how to overcome your fear? First and foremost, actions. Taking actions is the most obvious and the most effective way of tackling your fear. To quote from the book, the only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to go out and do it. In the book, Susan Jeffers recommends that we should step outside our comfort zone and do something that we always dread of or something that makes us feel really uncomfortable. Coming from my own experience, standing here giving this presentation is one of the scariest thing that I never imagined I would do. And it still makes me feel really uncomfortable, but I believe that practice makes perfect, and I believe that this discomfort will go away with more practice. And another thing that I can tell you for sure about taking actions is that you will feel so much better about yourself after this. Like you gain like so much confidence about the next speech that you're gonna make. So yeah. Moving on to the next point, we have out-talking your inner chatterbox. So what is this inner chatterbox? Inner chatterbox is basically this annoying little voice within every one of us that nags, criticizes, and tells you that you're going to fail even before taking actions. So in the book, it is suggested that we should replace our negative voices with positive affirmations like, I am going to do really well for this. I am handling my fear really well. And another thing that's really important is that we should state our affirmations in present tense, like I'm doing something really well. Because by doing so, it actually give the present self the reassurance that we have the capability to handle something. So I tried this method the night before a very crucial phone interview of mine. I kept telling myself that I'm going to nail this interview, I'm going to do really well for this interview. And during the interview, I started off really nervous and mumbled quite a lot, but I just kept pushing on and I kept telling myself that I'm going to do well, I'm going to do well, this is going the right direction. And that worked, and that calmed my nerves a lot, and the interview went really well. Next, we have saying yes to challenges. I've used a diagram here to demonstrate the different levels of our fear. So what I'm trying to say here is that we should identify the core of our fear. So using my own fear as an example again. So why am I so afraid of public speaking? That's because I'm very afraid of making mistakes in the public and getting judged by people. And probing deeper, why am I so afraid of making mistakes and getting judged? That's because I'm terrified of the feeling of disappointment, rejection, and inadequacy. So once I've recognized the core of my fear and normalize it as part of everyone's life, I feel so much better and I feel so much more confident about taking actions to overcome my fear of public speaking. And Well, last but not the least, be patient with yourself. This is perhaps one of the most important messages that is contained in the book. Well, one thing that we have to bear in mind is that our fear is not going to disappear overnight. And this is going to be like a lengthy process of trial and error, mistakes over mistakes. But just don't feel disheartened and tell yourself, like, what's the rush? I mean, I'm learning and I'm enjoying it. Like, yeah, I'm enjoying the process. And another important thing is that don't beat yourself up over mistakes. And try to work harder to improve yourself instead. Well, to sum up, to overcome your fear, 4 points to be remembered. Take actions, come up with positive affirmations to replace your negative voices, accept challenges, and most importantly, be patient with yourself. Yeah, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Just leave it out there for now, we'll take care of it. So, a couple of minutes of audience feedback for Elizabeth. Lots of points. We'll start at the back and move forward.
I thought it was great. It was really inspiring. Really believed in what you were saying. A point to improve, I think I do this a lot, is when you just look at the slides a lot, like they kind of distract you. But that's it. I thought it was really brilliant. I really liked it. Thanks.
Okay. Want to go with Milky?
Do I remember you saying you were like scared of public speaking or something? I wouldn't have thought that. You were fantastically confident and put all your messages across brilliantly.
I'm really nervous inside.
Yeah, that aspect of it was really good. And there's only 2 really minor points that I could pick you up for. One was you tended to stand at quite a large angle from the audience to the board. And the other one is there was 2 really small grammar mistakes.
Alright.
Sorry,
No, nervous about it.
Okay. David had a point?
Yeah, that was totally inspiring. I mean, I think a lot of us can relate to what you were saying, and this is what public speaking is all about. Like, I'm just really, just massive respect for kind of going up there, putting yourself out of your comfort zone and doing this. And as everyone said, you did amazingly. The slides were absolutely spot on. Not too much content, exactly the right amount. Caught your attention. You look at it for a while, and it's back to you. But as the people said, kind of a lot of time you were facing sideways. I don't know if you were trying to look at the slides or talk at the same time. In the future, if you need to see your slides, glance at them and then talk back to the audience. When you're talking to the audience, you have to be facing the audience. But aside from that, really great. Nice one.
Okay, Sonam, do you have a point?
I really love the speech, and I think I like the fact that you were talking about the book where you were sort of giving examples, your own examples, which I thought was really good. And the only thing I probably would say is, just I think all over the place, like slides and the cue cards and the audience, are kind of breaking a lot of context of the audience, and I think that's what makes it more. So I think that's really good.
Okay. Anyone have any other points?
I actually think your use of notes was really professional, because if I have notes, it might be because I study a foreign language and it's sort of more difficult grammar-wise, but I will read them. But I think your notes, you handled that really well. I loved it in general, but I just thought like it was really professional. Yeah, they were little and didn't really discuss anything.
Yeah. I've got to just add something there. You didn't tend to rely on the notes you had in your hand that much.
That's what I meant.
But one thing I would say is there are a couple of points where you were reading off the slide some of the points.
Because they were close, you had to.
No, the point is if you have a quote, either put it up there and say, here's a quote to think about, or kind of keep it and say it yourself. I think there's kind of no point having it both up to look at and if you just read it out. So there might be something to think about next time. Do you have any another point? Okay.
Actually, I really like your presentation. It's very refreshing, and especially how to overcome the fear part. I have a lot of personal fear as well. So thank you. And I have one question. There is a code at the end, the last page of your slide. It says, you can ask, but draw your own answer. I really like that quote. It's very funny. But should you like repeat that, like say that out, or just leave it there? Because it's very brilliant quote.
So you need a picture?
No, like
A little cartoon picture on the third slide.
Not your own ass, that one.
I was just fine on Google and I thought it was really funny, so I just put it there.
Okay, so we'll have one last point from Billy before we move on to Alex's feedback.
I thought the content was great, very clear, very to the point. You didn't dilly around it at all. You got straight to it. But I thought maybe end with a quote rather than the end, because you obviously know a lot of quotes from this book. You know the book inside and out, and that really came across. But I think you could end on a quote, which is something for us to think about. Because if you're going to end with one slide, then leave it with us.
Okay, so we move on to Alex's feedback.
Yeah, we can focus a lot on positive. It's your first time public speaking, is that right? Yeah. Okay, no, it was really great to open your personal story and actually let us in to yourself and then actually related that to the book, which I really like. And you asked me to look at the slides. They all made sense. One thing that I think to the group is I think maybe it was 4 points. I would maybe limit that down to 3 to seem like third and fourth almost, in my mind anyway, seem merging into each other. Yeah, I mean, if you can go back to the side of the points, I'm not sure if how it was laid out in the book. Yeah, take action, procrastinations. Yes, yeah, because after the third one, and to me, maybe in my mind, because I have a very slow mind, it was like, but if you limit to 3 points, then you can like get all of that in there. It's easier to remember as well. For some reason, things like 3. But the thing that I like most about it is your smile. You have like a really great smile, and the entire time, even when you're talking about how like being self and overcoming your fear, you like clearly see you like lit up, and yeah, you seem really, really happy and quite comfortable over there, which was really good. And it had quite a lot of good quotes in there, like again, fear is not going to lead us to disappear. That was like really good writing, and that came across really well. And the language you use the word I, but you also the word pronoun. I think you also use a lot of you and a lot of we and us, and they kind of like bring everyone together. It makes it more personal, especially when you talk about you referring to the audience. So yeah, the slides all made sense, which I really liked. It was good that you opened a personal story and you asked me to talk about your gestures, using them quite effectively when you use them. The only improvement I could make in the gestures was because you were holding your notes. It was kind of a lot harder for you to, again, do movements, but they all came across naturally, so you could put your notes down on the front of the next speech. And if you need to use them, then you can maybe quickly glance down at them and do the trick that I do, which is swim the water, looking down at the notes, and then going back to it. No, but it was a great first speech. I really loved it, and I like your smile as well.
Thanks.